So Keensha Goilme Anasosta the Vensa live in you Sligo. And I can think of no better place to be than in Lissadell House to remember Countess Markievicz. This was her home, a place she loved and a place that she gave up to serve the people of Ireland. There's no better place to recall the victory of Sinn Féin in the 1918 general election 100 years ago. Aum Kinuach is Thorn a Heron a Bae, Vi Ulvua ag public tonic sa Tawachan a Reductor Tawachan Hin Féin. Hog Wincher na Heron, Trumlock Son Sirsha na Heron. Udor Broje Gorhoga Countess Markievicz sa Tawachan Shin. Vi She Porchuk sa Tradishun Usul de Vana public tonica Shin Avi in a Rave Lodaha o Smacht. And there is no better place to remember that generation of poets and patriots who looked beyond their time, who fought with bravery and carried that unquenchable thirst for justice, for equality and for Irish freedom. And there is no better place to be and no better people to be with than all of you. The rebels, the radicals and the Republicans of today. For it is we that carried the mantle of Ava and Constance, of Margaret Skinnader and Kathleen Lynn, of Winifred Carney and Hannah Sheehy Skeffington, of Margaret Buckley, Myra Drum and Mairead Farrell. We are the generation to make good their promise and deliver their legacy. And we do this not out of duty. This is not a weight of history. This is a choice that we have made. A choice to build a new and united Ireland, and we make that choice freely. Markievicz could have taken the easy path. She could have turned a blind eye and lived in comfort, but she didn't. She chose a life of struggle, a life of service, a life of hope, and a life dedicated to change. Like Markievicz, we are the difficult women. We are, all of us, the disruptors and the most unmanageable of revolutionaries, and we have no apologies to make for any of that. 100 years ago was a time when a British government believed that it could dictate to the Irish people. A time of tenements and of profiteering landlords, a time of poverty, ill health and inequality. And Markievicz championed the role of women, and she was a beloved friend to the poor. She stood on the picket lines with workers and opposed landlordism. She fought and she sacrificed. She was a soldier. And that still troubles those in power today. There are those who want to co-opt Markievicz, to sanitize and neuter her revolutionary spirit and revise her actions. And this rewriting of her legacy is nothing new. Hannah Sheehy Skeffington wrote in 1932 of a dedication to Markievicz by Eamon de Valera. She wrote, "The picture painted by Eamon de Valera of Labour's revolutionary heroine is conventionalised beyond recognition. It resembles those portraits by the studio artist that improve away the real features of the sitter, smoothing out the wrinkles and furrows for a touched-up image of their own. The image of a chocolate box heroine. It's an apologia where none is needed." Hannah called out this revisionism in 1932, and so too must we today. These revisionists celebrate the election of Markievicz as the first woman elected to Westminster, and so they should. But what they ignore is her principled abstention from that parliament, her pledge to never take an oath of allegiance to the power that she meant to overthrow. And these revisionists now attack Sinn Féin for that same principled stance, that same unwillingness to take an oath of allegiance to a foreign power. And I ask those revisionists, would they take that oath? Would they? Across Dublin, posters have been erected to commemorate the Sinn Féin election of 1918 and the election of Constance. One such poster hangs directly outside the gates of Leinster House. The poster hangs across the road from where homeless man Jonathan Corrie died, alone, on the streets of Dublin. Flowers and ornaments still lie where he slept. And as I walk through my home city and see these posters and see the devastation that years of neglect and bad governance have brought to our people and to our country, I cannot help but wonder, what would Markievicz say? I can't help but wonder what the Markievicz, who pledged her life not just to the cause of Irish freedom, but to equality and to taking a stand for the poor, what would she say about the obscenity of people sleeping in doorways, the obscenity of citizens queuing for hot food on cold nights? What would she say about the continued partition of our country? What would she say about the denial of basic rights to our people, the rights to speak our language, to health care, to love and marry who you want? What would she say to those professional politicians south of the border who claim her legacy but would trade off the health and well-being of our nation's children for the sake of power? What would she say? What would she make of this Dáil and the partnership of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael? Parties that take the side of the landlords, that have stolen the dream of many to own their own home, that stand over a system in which a working wage is not a living wage. What would she make of a Dáil that still behaves like a boys' club? What would she say to Leo and to Micheál? My guess is that she would have a lot to say, but she isn't here to say it. So we must, and we will be heard. We will not rest until Ireland is united and free. We will not rest until every child is cherished equally, until the wealth of the nation is used for the people of the nation, until, as the democratic programme of the First Dáil states, we recognise the right of every citizen to an adequate share of the produce of the nation's labour, until our country is ruled in accordance with the principles of liberty, equality and justice for all. When Constance died, she died poor, and the Free State government would not give her the honour that she deserved. It was the poor, the workers and the rebels who lined the streets for their beloved Markievicz. 100 years on, and she remains a troubling figure for those in power, because she stands against the hypocrisy of the Irish political leadership that would call on others to swear an oath to a queen, because she reminds them that no republic worthy of that title would tolerate homelessness or partition, would be home to poverty or inequality. 100 years on, their failures are measured against her greatness, her vision and her actions. I would hope, if she were alive today, that Markievicz would be here in this room, standing here, standing with us, inspiring us and berating those in power. I have no doubt that she would be forever a Republican and a rebel. She may be gone, but she lives on. She lives on in her ideals and her actions. So we must continue the fight of Constance, because her business is unfinished, because the business of that revolutionary generation is unfinished, and because their business is our business. We must continue on the road to true equality. We need to finish what they started. We will finish what they started. We must continue to fight for a new and inclusive Ireland, a united Ireland. As we are here today in Lissadell, the leadership now of the contemporary Sinn Féin party, the party of Markievicz, we pledge and we vow to do that, to do nothing less than that, to be satisfied with nothing less than that. That, in the end, is what Constance, what Ava, what the great family who grow up in this great place of Lissadell, and what that entire generation of dreamers, of believers, of fighters, of the compassionate, brilliant Republican tradition would expect. Gramila ma agov.